it was a real nail biter. The story of this is that I had called a meeting of people, library people around the state, to see if we could pressure the Texas State Library into finding out if property tax-based library districts were constitutional in Texas. And during that meeting, the consensus began to be West Bank is in such a unique position. They know so many legislators. We at that time had already had, we hosted a reception at the governor's mansion, or I'm sorry, Laura Bush hosted a reception at the governor's mansion. And we had a lot of lobbyists who lived in the area, and we knew a lot of legislators by then. And they decided that we should take the lead and see if we could pass library district legislation. So I recruited Jan Brown, who happened to be sitting in the library one day, who is married to Dick Brown, which is a very important person in this whole story. And I also recruited Will Richardson to take the lead as we tried to create library districts. And Dick Brown literally wrote the legislation. And then Jan and I went and met with various legislators and had a senator, a Democrat senator in Senator Gonzales Barrientos, and Representative Terrell Smith, who is a Republican, take the lead in actually presenting the legislation. So it was very unlikely this would go through. And it was based on property tax. The legislative board looked at it and said, not constitutional. So Dick Brown rewrote the legislation so it became sales tax based and resubmitted it a few days later. And Dick told us it was unlikely that this would pass. And so as it worked its way through the legislative session, Will and Jan and I would go down and talk to various people about it. And the last day of the session, literally the last day of the session, one of the representatives had called a point of order, and like 50 bills got thrown out about 8 o'clock at night. And all of a sudden there was a chance our legislation would actually be heard. So Jan and I rushed down to the legislature, sat up in the galley up above, and about maybe, I think it was about 10 or 11 that night, it was going to end at midnight, the Speaker of the House gavelled the thing, and he looked up at Jan, and he said it 3 times before we understood what he said. And basically what he said is, you can call off your dog now, meaning Dick Brown, who was down lobbying the legislatures. And it passed. So we were just ecstatic that it passed. It was very unexpected. We had probably only started talking about it in the fall of that year, and it was passed by June. So that was very impressive. This is in 1999 when the Senate actually passed the library district legislation. And unlike the passage at the House, the Senate was actually the next day, so I could see it on closed caption TV, but I wasn't there in the chamber when they passed it. But that's an excited face. Creating a library district was incredibly beneficial to us after all those years of just furious fundraising and grant writing. It was beyond wonderful to have stabilized funding. On the downside of it is that there was nothing written that told you how to create a government entity. So there was all sorts of legislation that we needed to follow. There was everything from open meeting acts to We needed to host elections. We needed to deal with sales tax revenue. There were legal issues. There was personnel and benefit issues that all, we were now a government entity and our needs were different than as a nonprofit. And it was a very steep and fast learning curve. And as the first library district in Texas, we caught the brunt of learning how to take care of these things. We now, instead of a large board of 12 or 15 people, because that had been a fundraising board as a nonprofit, we now have 5 elected trustees. It meant that we could immediately begin the building expansion that we desperately needed. So along with learning how to be a library district, we were also in a building construction project as well. It meant we could expand our staff. And there were so many differences that were so unexpected. And one of them was the board made a major philosophical decision that they would continue to, no matter what, to be very involved and use as many volunteers as possible, because it had been such a powerful, powerful outreach to our community. And we saw the benefits of it in so many different ways. From a statewide issue, it was the first new kind of funding that had come along in Texas for 40 years. That was a very significant change for Texas, and as a result, a number of our people were recognized. Jan Brown and Will Richardson were recognized by the Texas Library Association, as was the first time I think a legislator had ever been recognized. Representative Terrell Smith was honored. And eventually it led to me being named Librarian of the Year for the Texas Library Association, which was an incredible honor. And in the meantime, there were all these other library districts who were interested in getting started. And we ended up creating a discussion group under the Texas Library Association banner for library districts. And that continues to this day.